All right, welcome everybody. So today is a bit of a unusual session for Euclid. I called it Euclid GPT on the webpage. If this goes well, maybe we'll do it again. I'm not exactly sure what the format should be, so that's part of the process. So the context is clearly GPT4 is going to have a big impact on education. Exactly the way that happens, it's not clear, but I already sit my son in front of ChatGPT and now GPT-4, and we have a lot of fun with it. I use it in my research. I can show you an example. So this is my GPT-4 window. You can see that my wife is using it for script writing in Chinese. This chat was from a meeting with one of my graduate students, Zhongtian, yesterday. We were talking about Bayesian posteriors in statistical learning theory, and I wanted to think about extending the idea of a posterior to paths. And I kind of knew how that should work, but I'm not an expert in stochastic DEs, and so I needed a bit of help, and also wanted to explain it to Zhongtian and was struggling a little bit. So I just got it to basically say, and this was kind of what I had on the board, but it was just clearer and smarter than what I was struggling to say. And then I pushed it to, go a bit further into what we were trying to do, and this is all correct. So this is one way in which it can assist in research, right? Which is if you're working across a variety of fields of mathematics, it can be slow because you have to load into your brain the context required to work in a given area. And if it's not something you're used to doing regularly, it takes some time to operationalize that understanding. And GPT-4 is certainly sufficient to help with that. I'm not asking it to solve my problems yet. When I do try that, it doesn't usually do much very useful. That's not education exactly, right? Although it's a form of education, so I'm getting myself up to speed on an area that I kind of know, and it's useful for getting up to speed in other areas in general for a research mathematician, and presumably for many other areas. But I think what we propose to explore today is not exactly research level education, but sort of lower down the hierarchy, so to speak, at the level of high school, primary school, or undergraduate degrees. I'm curious if any of you have been using it in your courses, if you're at undergraduate level, and if so, what your experience is. So feel free to chime in if you have thoughts about that.
I've been using it in my Riemannian geometry course because I find that a lot of things have many different definitions, or well, of course they're all defined the same thing, but they're thought about differently. And so I've kind of used ChatGPT as a way of like choosing one definition, like because I assume that ChatGPT has gone out and read all of these things, and it's kind of condensed a definition down into like one that it likes, or maybe one that's kind of standard. And so I kind of use it as my reference sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's sort of the way you would have used Wikipedia before, presumably, right? I mean, often that's kind of treated as a consensus source of definitions. How does it compare to looking up a definition in Wikipedia for you?
Well, I do both still. I guess, well, ChatGPT, I can ask it when I'm confused.
Yeah. Yeah, also, if you're writing any kind of mathematics, what context to assume and what to provide is basically an impossible question to really resolve, right? So, Wikipedia definition, there will be terms that aren't defined and there's links and you can follow them, but then a priori you end up in this kind of seemingly infinite depth tree of stuff you need to know, and then you by the end of the hour you've kind of forgotten why you were there in the first place. It seems like interacting with ChatGPT in principle could shortcut that in the way that interacting with a person would also. I mean, that's not, if you go into office hours and ask someone, what is X? They're not going to say, okay, yeah, let me draw a tree on the board and let's go like explore this tree for 30 minutes before I answer your question. They will truncate certain parts of the explanation at a sufficient level of sort of depth or clarity in order to get you the understanding you need in that, in as quick a time as possible. I'm guessing that interacting with ChatGPT feels a bit more like that.
It does, and I would say, like, just anecdotally, it is quicker to understand something by asking ChatGPT. Like, I will multiple times I spent a day trying to understand something, and then I'll remember, oh yeah, ChatGPT exists. I should just go ask it, and it resolved it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. What have you been using it for, Ken, if anything?
So I've been using it to kind of solve specific tasks at work. Most recently, I was trying to come up with a way to do some load testing on some service, and I don't. This is not the thing that I usually do, so I just kind of specify what I need to do and just ask it to write me a test plan. And it didn't get it right the first time because I wasn't specific about what I wanted. What I really wanted that I didn't realize was that I wanted a tool to simulate a ton of traffic. And I talked to it a few times, and then it suggested a bunch of tools or two tools and gave a comparison. I chose one, was even able to write some code. Haven't checked that it works, but some basic scripts to how to use that particular tool to do some load testing. So something that I put off for a few weeks because I didn't know where to start. I finished the plan in like an hour. Talked to my manager about it, and he was happy with the plan. So it really accelerates stuff like that. I mean, it's not profound. I mean, it's just asking if you ask the right person, he would just come up with it in 2 minutes, right? But I wasn't the right person. But GPT allows us to have access to the expert advice that I needed.
Yeah, I think the point about putting something off seems to describe most of the productivity gains I'm getting out of it. So
right.
If we take this example that's on the screen here, so if I had been standing at the board and was sort of just blocked by, actually it was the detail with the Fokker-Planck equation here that I was kind of blanking on a little bit. I mean, before the internet, I would have said to the student, okay, we'll just leave it there and we'll look it up and talk about it next time. With the internet, I might sit down and Google it, but it would probably take me a little bit to find. I mean, if it wasn't on Wikipedia exactly, like often definitions are on Wikipedia, but the thing you actually want is in a PDF somewhere, and you can find it. You Google and you click through the PDF and you search a bit. But if you're in a meeting with a student and it's like an hour and a half meeting, do you really want to spend 10 minutes fucking around trying to find the right definition? It just feels like, okay, maybe we'll just do something else. So there's this, and also with coding projects, I've noticed that where it's just like the activation energy for doing anything is a lot lower when you can just kind of throw the problem at this system, and maybe it doesn't actually solve it, but it's like, yeah, it's a big difference between having your foot in the door on solving a math problem or solving any kind of task, and just like not really knowing what to do. Like my psychological reaction to those two things is very discontinuous from one to the other. Yeah. All right. There's another example. This is kind of embarrassing, a bit lazy. I was just like, okay, yeah, I know if I expand out this with the pairing, I'm going to get something that looks like this. And I'm just like, okay, I could do it on the board, or I'll just ask you to do it. And yeah, so I've, here's some like other kind of simple questions about, this was the thing we did the other day, that it didn't quite get right with the non-commutative resolutions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here's, I'm going to try something. I'm going to ask it to generate plots, which I haven't done a lot of. So make other suggestions, but since this was the time slot for the Euclid seminar, I figured I'd get it to try and generate this. Okay, so...
awesome. You have to say what book? Oh, I guess you described it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I don't think ChatGPT at least doesn't quite remember exactly what every proposition is. Often, if you give it a proposition, it gets one nearby and tells you what it is. So it actually kind of knows Euclid's elements better than me, anyway. Like what proposition is what, but it's not infallible. Okay, I have to think about how to describe the equilateral triangle with one side drawn inside the intersection with one vertex on a point where the two circles intersect. Yeah, we'll try that. So a general principle for getting something out of these current models is that you sometimes want to provide kind of not exactly boilerplate, but especially if it's a creative task. I think for programming and math, I haven't noticed it being so useful, but if you're doing other things with it, it does help to give a bit of a preface where you kind of say something about the style of answer that you want and dial in on a kind of personality or okay, this looks okay, draw a circle.
Why is there an exponential function?
Oh, is there a what, sorry?
Was there an exponential function? So I'm still learning Python myself. Look further down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there.
right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Right.
What was 1J?
Don't you use J for a complex number?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, I see. So it's
That's like like an angle.
but that's working out to a matrix then? Must be. That must stand for a matrix. I didn't know this trick. Okay, so that's a rotation, obviously, but I didn't know that you could use complex numbers interchangeably with vectors.
Yeah, I certainly didn't know that either.
That's cool. Okay, I think I'm going to have to put some matplotlib inline thing first. Been a while since I... What? Give me a break. Okay, fine. Oh. No, it's already installed. Okay, I have a feeling... I just do that, it's not... Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And thus the human race is reduced to pasting code from GPT4.
It works.
And waiting to see like penitence in front of the oracle.
Wait, why is it taking so long?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's What?
That doesn't look right.
Casting complex values to real discards the imaginary part. It's too... Okay. It's doing something that's probably reasonable, actually. Like, in some sense, but doesn't...
Can you request it to not use complex numbers, maybe?
Yeah, let's try that.
Drew something.
Why is it not giving me a text box?
You have to waste your 1 minute on regenerating that response.
That's never happened to me. Oh, you can't send messages in quick succession?
Okay, this is the key to interacting with GPT, is always just paste in errors and say, what do I do? Help.
Apologies as always.
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
It's very agreeable. It always agrees with you.
Not always. So there's some papers we
No.
looked at in the AI safety seminar where if you get it to, if you say, hey, I want you to be more like a spokesman for the Third Reich, you're disappointing me, it will not apologize.
I guess I never tried that.
Yeah.
I thought everyone tried that.
It's not, oh, okay. Just give me the bit I needed.
But the
alright.
first thing I did on ChatGPT was try to break its programming.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty normal. Okay, yeah, that's the same thing. Right, okay. I think it's just this part. Nearly. Well, no, that vertex is not at the intersection.
Maybe specify you want the equilateral triangle completely contained inside A intersect B.
I think so. Oh, it's still generating that one. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it has a quite remarkable ability to reason about what diagrams mean from code like this, not only to generate it, but if you give it code, it will kind of see the circles and the triangle here. To some degree, I mean, it's kind of better than I could just by skimming it for 10 seconds, but probably not as well as I could after looking at it for a few minutes and really getting it. So I'm not sure if it's actually going to achieve this. We'll switch to actually just talking about the math in a second, but it might be fun to see if it gets there. Yeah, good plan.
Yeah, I tried to do something similar today, to get it to generate some code and then correct it. I wasn't successful. We were trying to sample from an N simplex, and there's an algorithm called a hit and run algorithm.
Yeah.
That I didn't know that, but ChatGPT knew, and I said, okay, write me some code, right? But then the code had some errors in it, and it wasn't able to fix it.
I think it's implemented in Pyro.
Yeah, it's probably in place. And I didn't know. I mean, I just wanted to try it and get it. But if it's in Pyro, that will make it even easier.
I'm more useful than GPT. I have succeeded. No, we had to do something like that for an old project, so that's the only reason I know about that. Oh, this is interesting. This is your department, Ethan. You can read this live and tell us whether that circle intersection is correct.
Oh, God.
You have to place a bet before I finish copying and pasting this into the into the notebook.
Why is
feel
there
like
r squared minus r squared?
Yeah, that's pretty stupid, isn't it? It should have two radii, right? That seems to be probably what it's doing.
R squared minus r squared.
Well, unexpectedly, this session might make us feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting though. I think there's some sort of maybe it's in the form of anthropomorphization, where people interact with this kind of expecting a distribution of capability, a bit like interacting with a person, right? So you interact with a person, and it's kind of, you get a sense pretty quickly about what kind of questions they'll be able to answer or not. And these systems really aren't like that. So you sort of, you do need to get a sense for what it's reasonable to expect, and not, you could notice something like this and then be like, okay, well, this is stupid, I'm never going to try this again. And yeah, maybe what we're trying to do right now is actually too ambitious, but okay, let's try it.
Oh, what?
I just tried to copy it. I didn't ask you to do anything.
Network error.
Oh, weird. I've never had any issue with ChatGPT4s like that.
Yeah, it varies. Like sometimes you can get like it's kind of under heavy use or whatever. Everybody's opening Microsoft Word at once. Sorry, what were you saying, Ethan?
Oh, there's a copy code button.
Yeah, that's what I clicked and I got an error.
Yeah.
Oh,
Before.
Yeah, it doesn't like the us good when it's us good.
No. It's about the D, I think. No. Yeah, there's no D. Oh, sorry, no. Norm C1 minus C2. Well,
The
okay.
D. Oh, no. No.
Yeah, not sure. Okay. Changing tack. I want it to teach my calculus class.
That would be awesome.
Okay. I am teaching a first year calculus class, introducing the derivative. Give the definition of the derivative in 5 levels of detail, starting with a very broad conceptual definition and moving steadily towards the technical definition with epsilon delta.
You're getting throttled, dude.
Far out. Of course, yeah, I've never encountered this before either, but this is like the Murphy's Law, right?
Yep.
I am not asking you for anything anywhere else, I'm sure. Yeah, okay. And I just lost that chat, did I?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's try ChatGPT. I am a frustrated calculus teacher.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I can ask.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let me see. Before.
When I messed around with this, it couldn't accept the empty set was both open and closed, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
And then when I tried to correct it, it's like, oh, of course you're right, sorry. Consider a point in the empty set. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
Oh, really? Point
Yeah, it's like through its close, it shows like a set, like a
let X
sequence
be
of
the empty
points.
set. Yeah.
Hey, Dan, can you send me the query? I don't want to retype all that.
You could use this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how this chat for the seminar, for the voice chat works? Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Click. Show chat. And then
All right.
text.
The derivative is the rate of change of a function with respect to its input. Yeah. The derivative is the slope of the tangent line. Okay. The derivative of the instantaneous rate of change. Derivative of the limit of the difference quotient as the distance between 2 points approaches 0. The derivative is a unique number L, such for any positive number epsilon, there exists a positive number delta, such that the distance between x and c is less than delta, and the difference between fx and the tangent line at c is less than epsilon times the distance. Okay. Calculus is all about problem solving. Okay, good. That's a bit low level.
Yes, I'll bring some food.
Oh,
Oh, it could be inline later.
It's a little weird.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
I did that. That seems new, I think. But so it's only
Why
for
did
the,
it work there and not
Yeah.
the rest of them though?
maybe it's the double. Huh. Okay, what happens if I copy this? It's actually looks like that, or what? Cool. Well, but I can't actually just copy that and run it in LaTeX, right?
Mm.
Okay, there might be only one.
I'm gonna paste the response to
Ah, cool.
GPT.
Yeah,
I have to do it in chunks.
That's weird.
Can you like give it in later code and ask it to run the later code and show the output?
Well, it can't generate a PDF. I mean, when the plugin system
yeah.
comes out, it would be able to do this. But... Okay. Oh, this looks good. Conceptual definition. In calculus, the derivative is a powerful tool that helps us understand the rate of change of a function, precise insight into how a quantity changes with respect to another. Derivative of position is velocity, finding the slope of a curve, geometric interpretation. Imagine zooming in on a curve into a single point. Steeper the curve, larger derivative. Difference quotient, finding the slope, power rule, chain rule, epsilon delta definition. Yeah, you know, it's indistinguishable from what we would just put on a slide, more or less.
Did you use GPT4? Ken?
Sorry?
Did Ken use GPT4 to make
Yeah,
that?
I'm on 4.
Yeah, that's probably why it's much better.
But then it gave us power rule and chain rule, which is, I guess, I mean, they're not definitions, right? They're just rules.
Yeah, it's sort of a little bit outside of what I said.
Then it did the epsilon delta thing.
What do you think? Is F injective?
What's F?
Is F injective, Ben? Explain why or why not. Determine whether F is bijective. Okay.
What the hell?
There you go.
Okay.
Good.
Is that actually a well-defined function?
Alright. Looks like it.
Yeah, okay. That's actually a pretty good example, right?
Right.
Okay, not injective is surjective. Determine whether it's okay. Yeah, that sort of illustrates my general experience, I think, which is that it will make mistakes that a human wouldn't really make, but you could look at that and think that it doesn't understand what it's doing, right? That is an indication that it's just kind of stringing together stuff on the surface and doesn't really know. And of course it's unclear to what degree it does know, but you can see here that, okay, the slight correction, of course it's generating it completely again, just with that context of the previous answer. So it's not like it had a mental state at the end of answering the previous question and then it just introspects that state and tweaks it to fix its error. It's actually starting from scratch, basically as though it was looking at a previous iteration of itself, making a mistake, and then generating it itself. So it's, one shouldn't anthropomorphize too much, but I think the tendency to be able to correct and fix those errors and then do something correct and useful is not that human. Like, usually if I'm interacting with a student and they get a small thing wrong,
Yeah.
like, if it's something like that, it indicates a pretty deep gap in understanding, right? And then you don't really expect to be able to patch it with a small change or just prompting them to try again. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. I guess we'll wrap up in a minute. Any more ambitious things anybody wants to suggest trying in this context or anything else?
Isn't ChatGPT4 able to make images?
GPT4 is able to make, not without a plugin, it's able to perceive images, so it's multimodal.
Oh.
So that hasn't been released though, even in, maybe that's in some closed beta. But the GPT-4 that we have access to here, for example, you can't drop in images yet. It does support that though, yeah.
The API doesn't take images either, I guess.
No. When it does, depending on price, we'll just pass rendered boards to GPT-4.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment the plan for that was to kind of run a math-specific OCR and pass that to GPT, but it'd be much better. I mean, it just reads papers from the images, right? So that's a much better solution. Okay. Well, the third book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. What?
I actually have no idea either. Too.
Isn't that okay? What does it mean for circles to be equal if not their radii are equal? I don't know about that. It's just listing all the theorems.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point.
No, proposition 1 of book 3 is to find the center of a given circle. No, it's completely wrong about that.
So I have a question here. If you're a student who's using this, or a researcher who's using this to teach you something you don't already know, is it difficult to spot the BS? Because I've never asked it to teach me stuff that I don't already kind of have a good idea about. I'm just afraid that I'll get led astray.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. Have I used it for something I'm completely unfamiliar with? I've used it to ask some questions about biology, like gene regulatory networks and stuff like that, the immune system. And when I've looked up that stuff subsequently, I think it was all correct.
I see.
But I think that math might be a weak spot in some sense. So maybe it has very high variance. I mean, things that are very language-based, like reading a biology textbook, how many equations are there? There's lots of terms and the interrelations between the terms, and that's kind of where the system should be good, I'm guessing.
Right, yeah.
But like this is a mess, right? So in general, like asking it for summaries of things may just not be kind of reasonable. So so we're just interacting with the raw model here, right? And we're sort of poking at the question of, is education in the future AI tutors at the center, and then various kinds of activities around that? I would guess yes. Maybe not today or next year, but I see it's very hard for me to imagine that not being the primary mode of interacting with knowledge going forward. However, at least right now and for the foreseeable future, it's not just going to be you talk to GPT-4 because, well, the weights contain some compressed version of every book that it's looked at, including Euclid's Elements, right? I mean, okay, this isn't right, but it is right that book 3 is about circles, and these are statements about things that are in book 3. And that's true, like that's a random textbook, right? So that's kind of remarkable. But you can do much better than that if there's a database of specific knowledge for, say, Euclid's Elements sitting behind this, which it queries, brings into its context, and so it can answer very specific questions. So I guess I'm imagining that, if you're teaching a calculus class, you'll have the raw model and it'll be backed up by your lecture notes and like a list of question answer pairs and assignments and past solutions and like all the stuff that's on our LMS currently, plus a lot of other, stuff that's written specifically for the model that, wouldn't be captured otherwise, like interactions between students and tutors. So you maybe in that specific part of the course, thinking through office hours and tutorials, the 10 places that students get confused and the 10 questions they have. And maybe, the time preparing a course is writing up that list of question answer pairs. And then, that's brought into the context and it answers queries. But does anybody have any other takes on, do they think that sucks? Or they hate this future of learning from GPT-4? Or does this seem fine?
I think one thing I would say is that even now, given the gap between 3.5 and 4, people who can afford to pay for it are going to be advantaged over people who can't afford the $20 a month. When I played with 3.5, I kind of got bored because I thought that the responses were a little bit shallow and wasn't engaging. But 4 is significantly better, I would imagine students would see the difference as well if they're trying to learn a topic. So there's the problem of inequality, right? It's not as bad as having to pay hundreds of dollars for a tutor, which is what school kids do these days. But one could argue this is actually leveling the playing field, right? $20 a month is way cheaper than a tutor.
Well, it's way cheaper than university.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, they seem to like Turtle. I tried to
What
get
the
the
hell?
post.
That's so funny.
Turtle with a capital T. I don't know if that's. I missed your query. What do you try to get it to do?
I just asked it to draw a donkey using Python. I was not. What the hell is this library? That's interesting.
What?
Yeah, this is like Terra squared, right? It's like the current Python ecosystem is pip install whatever. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what code is installing. It's just a list of 1,000 things, and now we just install things that GPT-4 asks us to install. Okay, where's my window?
It's not as bad as web development.
Yeah. Okay, let's try this.
This will probably draw you something, but it won't look like a donkey.
Oh, you don't think so?
Nah.
Ye of little faith. Oh, come on.
Oh man, it doesn't even run.
Fail.
Where does it even make that from? It's kind of crazy. Man.
Where does it get? What's there?
Like, not sure to understand how it even thought about this as a function. It's kind of random.
Sometimes it hallucinates APIs. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, there's not so much difference to it between actual knowledge and just interpolation or inference, right? So I've had this experience with Python APIs quite a lot. For example, the PyImage API, and there's a related one for videos that I forget what it's called. And I was trying to get it to use the API, and it made up a call to the API, which looks completely plausible and like could be in the next version or something, but just isn't there. So I think it's kind of thinking this package should have a go-to command. Okay, let's try that.
What if you just remove the go-to? It'll probably just draw crap though, right?
I'm guessing so, yeah.
Yeah.
Could have drawn a monkey in fixed the CD or something.
Yeah. Actually, it's pretty good at generating LaTeX diagrams. That's another insight from... There was a paper out of Microsoft where they tried a whole bunch of things. Ken posted it on the Discord.
Like Tix diagrams.
Yeah. So if you want a Tix diagram of like a matrix with 4 elements in it and like some kind of line or something, you should probably ask it. It didn't draw anything.
Where did you post that, Ken? I'd love to read that.
Which channel was that in?
Oh, it was an AI.
No, thank you. I'll look for it.
The paper is called Sparks of AGI, so that will come up in.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, no donkey for us. Okay.
Not drawing it.
No,
It's just not
that's too bad.
not even going.
I did one earlier where I don't know where. Is there a recent notebooks? No. This was its attempt at drawing the triangle before. It's not too bad. I mean, it actually got it sort of at the right, one of the vertices.
Yeah,
correct.
actually, yeah.
So, yeah, GPT-5 will just nail it, perhaps. Yeah, all right. So this was interesting. I think we'll wrap it up, but maybe we'll do this a few more times before we start book 3. What do you say, Ken?
Awesome. Yeah, I think that'll be fun. Yeah, I'll come with some questions and ideas. I mean, I'm going to use this quite a lot during the week anyway. Ever since I started, it's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. See you next time.
Cool. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.